99%. This is a number that can either empower you or scare you. 99% of germs get killed, or 99% chance of rain. When you hear 99%, what do you think? If your weatherman came on and said there's a 99% chance of rain, you're gonna carry an umbrella. If I told you there's a 99% chance you die tomorrow, you're probably gonna go ahead and plan your funeral. But 99% of clothing brands fail. So why am I starting one? And look, I'm not saying that building a brand is easy. It's not. There's so many things you have to be good at in order to build a successful brand that many brands don't make it. What I am saying is that the 99% statistic might be uncovering an underlying problem. So what I want to do in this video is make the argument against the 99% statistic, because that statistic is scaring away a lot of future clothing brand owners because they're scared of failure. Being scared of failure is okay, but is this 99% of clothing brands fail a real statistic? Most of the time when people repeat it, they can't even tell you where it came from. They just hear it circulated online and they believe it is fact. It doesn't take into account maybe businesses that stopped operating because of outside pressure. It doesn't count businesses that stopped operating because of money or external factors that happen to them that they can control. They fall into the 99% statistic. Sometimes the statistic says 90, 95, or 99%, and this takes into account businesses that stopped operating within that time frame. And that's why I think the statistic really doesn't hold weight. Think about what's in that number. There's a brand that probably posted 5 times on social media. They sold probably 10 units, gave it to friends, family, and they called it quits. They stopped. They count in that statistic. They're in that 99% statistic versus a brand that ran for 10 years, sold maybe 200 units, posted on social media for years and years and years, and then money just ran out, or external factors such as just the thing that they were selling wasn't hot on the market anymore. They're also in that statistic, but those are two completely different businesses. That statistic doesn't measure brands that were defeated. It measures brands that stopped operating. And those are two completely different things. Calling all of those failures is just imprecise. It's honestly dishonest because you can't say that those two fall into the same category. And that's why that number doesn't hold weight, because it takes thousands of stories, compresses them into one number, it attaches the word failure to it, and then it just scares off hundreds and hundreds of people. It scares them off in convincing that the clothing industry is an industry that they can't go into because it's just not gonna work. It's almost impossible to succeed. It's a wall that they physically can't climb. That number doesn't pay its dues to a person that's actually taken the time to build something. Because failing in a precise tense means being defeated by something completely out of your control. The market rejected your product even despite sustained effort. The conditions made success almost impossible. An outside factor ended it. That's failure. It happens. And quitting is making a decision to completely stop. It's a personal choice. There are plenty valid reasons to quit. Do not get me wrong. Financial pressure, life circumstances. There's hundreds and hundreds of reasons. And there are plenty of valid reasons to quit. I'm not saying that there aren't valid reasons to quit. Another thing is the loss of belief during the slow period. Imagine you spend hundreds of dollars, maybe even thousands of dollars into a drop, and you only get maybe 3 or 4 sales. That could be a gut punch. That could be a complete hit to your faith. You could lose hope in your brand just off of that. And another pressure that a lot of people don't talk about is the weight of comparison. If you compare yourself to a brand that's been running for 5 to 10 years, you see them drop and they make $10,000 and they sell out and they're driving a supercar, and then you turn around and look at your brand and you drop and you make $10 and everything's up there for a year because it didn't sell out. That could be a super gut punch. That could hurt you. That could also pressure you to stop. And every single one of those pressures is real. Every single one of those pressures are reasons that brands have stopped early. But the thing is, those pressures cause a decision. Those pressures make a decision to stop. And that decision is what goes into the statistic, not the pressures. And there's another thing that scares people out of entering this space, and that's competition.
The market is saturated. There's already so many brands. Why would I start something when there's so much of it out there?
Competition doesn't kill brands with real ideas. Competition kills brands with nothing underneath. If you release a product with no ideology or no message behind it and it looks like everything else, of course you're going to be scared of competition. You look like everyone else. You have the same message as everyone else. You are everyone else. So of course competition scares you because there's nothing to stand out. But what if you actually have an idea behind your brand? What if you actually have something underneath your brand? Well, then competition is what pushes you up. Because competition is like a filter. The brands with nothing underneath them, they fall to the bottom. The brands with something underneath them, they rise to the top. You can't be scared of competition when you want to start a brand or a business in that matter. because competition drives innovation. Competition makes sure the strongest survive. Competition makes sure that the strongest rise to the top. And the strongest isn't always the biggest or the most funded brand or the brand with the most connections. Sometimes it's just the brand with the realest message. Sometimes it's the brand ones can connect to the most or ones that they relate to the most. That can sometimes be the strongest brand out there. Sometimes that's the brand that gets found by the exact people it was meant for, and that's all they need. They have a strong core of loyal customers to sell to. But here's a variable I almost never hear that's talked about, and that's timeline. Timeline is something that I think kills brands more than anything else. Not talent, not connections, not funding, not timing, nothing else. I think timeline is what kills brands. And you might be asking, what do I mean by timeline? And by timeline, I mean the expectation of success. And what I mean by this is that there's brands out there that maybe drop 1 or 2 times and they don't see any success, and they realize this is going to be a long journey before I see any profit, and they quit. They get scared of the timeline. They wanted quick money and they didn't get it, and so now they quit. And again, quitting isn't bad. Sometimes it's the right call. But when your expectations of success are super quick and it doesn't happen, and that's what kills your brand, I think that's a problem. Because building a clothing brand isn't something that's gonna bring immediate success. Look at Nike, for example. They were founded in 1964 and spent almost 2 decades building before they became a household name. 2 decades, 20 years. Are you willing to build for 20 years? Champion was founded in 1919. 1919. Over 100 years ago. And they didn't start seeing success until recently. That's another brand that spent decades and decades building. Adidas was founded in 1949. Yet another brand that has spent years and years and years and years building. Success isn't something that happens overnight. It takes time. And I think that's something that a lot of brands need to understand. If you look at these most popular brands, there's always a point in time where nothing was moving. They weren't selling, they weren't making profit, they were stagnant. The thing is, they kept pushing and they kept pushing and they kept pushing, and eventually they broke through. They broke through when the outside world might have been looking in and saying, you need to stop. This isn't gonna work out. You've been doing it for years. Why keep going? It's not gonna work out, right? But they kept going and it eventually worked out for them. These are some of the biggest brands on the planet now. The slow period is not evidence that your brand isn't going to work. The slow period is a period that every brand has to go through, but the real decision gets made inside of the slow period. So let me ask you a question. If there was a wall in front of you and you had a hammer and you had to swing at that wall to break it down in order to escape, how long would you be willing to swing at that wall? If you swung at that wall 999 times and it still hasn't fallen, would you keep swinging? What if you swing and it falls on the 1000th swing? Were the other 999 swings a failure? No, they weren't, because they weakened the wall in order for it to fall on the 1000th. But now let's flip it. What if it doesn't fall on the 1000th swing? Are you still gonna keep swinging? What if it falls on the 2000th swing or the 3000th swing? Are you gonna keep swinging? You don't know when it's gonna fall, but the question is, are you willing to go until it does? Success isn't quick. It's a compounding process. It takes time. It's not a one-hit thing. You're gonna have to go over and over and over again. Staying in the slow period is the most important part of a brand, because staying in the slow period is a skill. It requires understanding that the slow period shows process, not failure. Not seeing big numbers up on your screen or not seeing a Lambo outside your house, that's not failure. It's a slow process to get to where big brands are at. Most brands that could have worked out, they'll never know if they would have, because they quit before they ever gave time a chance to compound and see what that could have done. And that's why I think that the failure statistic is more accurately a quitting statistic, because I feel like there are hundreds of brands out there that have a message that can actually resonate with someone, but the problem is they quit early because of pressure or money or the fact that they didn't see success early. And if I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if oneself will succeed. I obviously hope it does, but I can't say for certain that it will. Nobody can. If I did say that, that would be arrogant, and I'm not gonna do that. What I do know though is that the competition within this space doesn't scare me, and I'm not saying that in a way that it's,
oh, my brand is so much better than everyone else's, or all the other brands are so bad.
I'm saying that in a sense that I want the competition. I want to be able to go in, do a first drop, see what everything else looks like, refine my drop, and move forward. The competition drives me to be better. I can't just put out whatever I want and it works. I actually have to put out stuff that's good. That's what I love about what I'm doing right now, is because I make the decision when to stop. It's all in my hand. If I fail, it's because of me. If I want to quit, I can make that choice. It's not on someone else. It's not on external factors. It's all on me. And that's what self over everything is. You make the choice whether or not people control how you live. You make the choice whether or not you listen to the outside voices and let people's doubt control you. That's what this is. I'm having to put myself over the narrative that 99% of brands fail. I have to put myself over the doubts that other people are going to have about me building this clothing brand. And this is something specific to anyone that's building a clothing brand, or maybe you're building a business or a project or any type of creative. I'm not telling you to quit. Quitting can be the right decision. Money gets real, life gets real, circumstances get real. But if you stop, just be honest about what it is. Call it a decision, not a defeat. It's not a failure. It was a decision made by you to stop. What I am saying though is, do not let competition scare you from starting a business or starting a project or whatever you want to start. Please do not let competition scare you. Competition is everywhere. Competition is healthy. It causes you to be the best version of yourself, because competition filters out the bad stuff. Competition is going to filter out the bad clothing brands for me. It might filter out bad artists for you, or it might push out bad restaurant owners if you want to start a restaurant. My point is, competition drives innovation and it puts down bad product. If you haven't made the decision to quit yet, and you're in the slow period and the numbers aren't showing effort, and you're putting in tons and tons of effort and you're maybe not getting sales, I hear you. If you hear a lot of doubts from outside friends, family telling you to quit, I hear you. I'm with you. I'm in the middle of it right now. My point is, do not quit. Keep pushing. Because the slow period is a point that every brand falls into. The slow period is something that I'm gonna have to go through. Probably after my first drop, I'm gonna go through a slow period. I'm not gonna see sales. I'm gonna be sitting on dead inventory in the corner of my room right there. There's gonna be inventory sitting there, and I'm gonna have to wake up and look at that every day. But it's not gonna stop me. So 99% of clothing brands quit, not fail. They quit, because quitting is a decision that you make yourself. If I closed up shop, that was me. I quit, right? And again, quitting is good sometimes, because again, life gets hard, life gets real. But don't let the numbers scare you from starting a business or starting a brand. Don't let that 99% scare you. Don't let it feel like only 1% can make it through, because it's not true. Because if you keep going, you could make that number be smaller than it actually is. But the point of this video was to show that the 99% is just a fear factor number to scare you, because that stat, it measures decisions, and yours hasn't been made yet.